go live on YouTube. And quick explanation, folks. We are having some difficulties with two of our staff. Robin is having problems getting audio going, and Amy isn't here yet. If she shows up, great. If not, the show must go on. It is vitally important tonight that we get the show going. Amy, or Robin, how are we doing? We got a great picture from Robin. Do we have any audio? I don't think we have audio. Nope, no audio. Shoot. We're already getting comments on YouTube. Iron Horseman says hello. And hello, Iron Horseman. I believe we're already getting comments on Facebook, too. And Kevin Sona is on Facebook and watching. And I need to pop this over to... Yeah, there we go. All right. We're having a little bit of issue with the program pushing the comments on Facebook for me to put them on the air. YouTube is no problem. But I'll keep working on that, and hopefully we will have that fixed by the time the show is about in the middle. Let me go over to show notes. Let me scroll up. This is live, folks. You get to see it as it happens. We deal with everything, so... Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace Robin in show notes with me. I'm going to say strap in, although I haven't said it in years. And we're just going to do the open with the three of us. And we will go as far as we have to go. I'm going to try... I'm going to try... Give me a second here. I'm getting a very important message I need to look at. I don't see... All right, let's...
Can Robin reboot her computer with her headset plugged in, maybe?
Robin, did you catch that? Robin, did you catch that? Try rebooting your whole system and leave your headset plugged in while you do it. I don't even know if she can hear us.
I'll text her.
Okay. And I'm going to come over here to... There it is. Okay. All right.
Are you kidding me?
Guys, we got to go. We've got to go live. We got to start recording. So, all right, folks, here we go. Everybody on Facebook and YouTube and everybody pray.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society Podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, November the 2nd, 2020. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and on tonight's show, we talk with Alan Gottlieb about tomorrow's elections and a new addition to the Second Amendment Foundation.
And Tracy's frozen. Well, we're also going to be talking about SHOT Show being canceled and Rick Ector's influence spreading into the Cleveland area. So climb aboard.
So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 563 of the Polite Society Podcast starts right now. Okay, podcast listeners, we've been having technical difficulties getting set up. We're live. The Facebook and YouTube video viewers know that we've been having issues. It's now 6 minutes after the hour. We were supposed to start right at the top of the hour, but we're here and we're rolling. I've been teasing an announcement for 2 weeks, and that will be coming here when we go to our first interview segment. But first, we got to get into the personal news. Rob, what's been up with you in the last week since we talked to you, man?
Now, you've been teasing us with your news. Don't tell us. Let me guess. You've quit trucking so that you can start selling Amway products. Isn't that why you call us all together, this virtual meetup?
No, actually what it is, I've started selling these extended car warranties, and Rob, I've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty, man.
I think I've been getting the calls. That explains a lot. Thank you, Paul. I was on Bill Frady's Lock and Load show today, and of course, what else could we talk about but the election that comes tomorrow? I recorded another episode of Self-Defense Gun Stories. I also took my concealed carry renewal class. It went much better than I feared. The first couple times I've taken it, the instructor basically read the NRA manual to us. That was painful. This class was way better than that. The new gun owners who were there, I talked to them. I was the only renewal in them. All the rest of the class were first times. And they said they wanted to carry because they'd seen violence in the news and didn't trust the government and law enforcement to be there when they needed them. If I had to criticize this class, and I have to dig to do it, I wish you could have spent an extra minute talking about making sure a gun is unloaded and about holsters. My summary, though, is if this is now what's a training curriculum into my state, then I want to teach some more. Amy, are you ready, or should we pitch to Tracy?
I'm ready.
All right, talk to me. How you been?
Well, I'm good. I'm a little tired. I just got back from shooting 3-gun all weekend, so that was fun. I was at the DC Project. They're a team match on Saturday and Sunday, so I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. I saw Robin there. I also saw another co-host, Amanda Suffolk. She was there, so it was a great time. Lots of fun, and just excited to get back in it. But literally just got back from the ranch a few hours ago, so. I'm still pulling up show notes, so I don't see who's next, but I can see Tracy and Robin are both here.
On Sunday, I
Tracy, how are you doing?
On Sunday, I registered for 3 classes with Brian Hill of the Complete Combatant for February of 2021 down in Bandera, Texas. Brian has been on my short list of instructors to train with for a while, so I'm really looking forward to this. I'm hoping to get to shoot my new Shadow 2 tomorrow night. I had my days wrong. On this Friday, KR Training Assistant Instructor Doug Gregg and I are going to set off to Mississippi, where we'll attend the annual Range Master Instructor Reunion. I'm looking forward to that. It's always fun to get to see the rest of your Range Master family from around the country and get to shoot with some of the country's best. I'm going to be shooting my 1911 this weekend, Paul. Just so you know. Robin, what's going on with you?
And we still have no
She
audio.
looks pretty. She's got makeup on, but we can't hear her.
Robin, keep working on it. When you're able to get it fixed, we'll come back to you. So that moves it to me, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this extremely brief. I've been doing some training. Had a great results with that. Was able to shave about a half second off from draw to bang. If we have time, I'll explain that later. But right now, I've been teasing this for 2 weeks. There's an announcement.
Yep.
And I really want to get to that announcement. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk to you very briefly about the Self-Defense Radio Network. All your Pro Freedom podcasts in one place. As people that are seeing it on Facebook and on YouTube can see, we're there. Modern Self-Protection, Eye on the Target Radio. As of right now, we've got 14 great shows on the network. More coming. I know at least one more is coming because the Armed Citizen podcast, when it gets 10 episodes, will be going up there as well. So, but lots of great stuff at sdrn.us. Check it out. You can listen to all the shows right from the website, or there's subscription information for all the shows right there. We are going to step aside to break because I am so anxious to do this. Coming up next, we'll make the announcement, and we're going to be talking with Alan Gottlieb of the Second Amendment Foundation. We'll get to that right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Massad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by network president Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. I'm going to start by saying this is the interview portion of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in Alan Gottlieb of the Second Amendment Foundation. To start with, Alan, I've been itching to spill the beans about this for 2 weeks. And you've added a new team member at the Second Amendment Foundation. People here are kind of going to know a little bit about this guy. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And let me bring your microphone up here because I don't think I do not have it. Now your mic is live.
Good. Well, it's great to be with you, Paul, and the rest of you as well. I guess we're breaking an announcement here. Paul, I've been biting at the bit also to release it. It hasn't been easy to keep it quiet. I'm so excited about it as well. But for everybody out there, Paul Lathrop has joined as a new cast member, you could say, for the Second Amendment Foundation. He's accepted a position as Deputy Director of New Media for the Foundation. And as a result, the Polite Society podcast will come under the Foundation's umbrella, as well as AmCon will come under our umbrella, and we hope to be able to expand both the podcast and AmCon as well, using the Foundation's resources. and we're excited to have Paul on board to do these things. Plus, Paul will be launching for us some new stuff. Two things, one called the Weekly Bullet, a roundup, a video roundup, I guess. Am I correct, Paul? That's the video one. That's going to key in on key activists and organizations in the Second Amendment fight all across our country and highlight activities that are going on. And then we'll be having something that we call the Daily Bullet. There'll be a news update that Paul will be doing for us as well. So we'll add the Daily Bullet, the Weekly Bullet, the Polite Society podcast, as well as AmCon under our umbrella, and bringing Paul on board. And I hope this outreach helps bring in a lot more gun rights activists to be part of the Second Amendment Foundation and feel that they're part of our family, being the Second Amendment family. And we're looking forward to expanding this, considering we're going to have probably a chaotic year ahead of us on various fronts. And so I'm kind of excited about all this, and I know Paul is too. So Paul, welcome to you. And we'll be putting out our news release about this tomorrow. We were going to release it today, but unfortunately, so what took precedent was we filed a new lawsuit today, and that took the precedence in putting the release out on the lawsuit.
Oh, sure.
And so, Paul, the release on you joining us, being part of our official family, will go out to the whole world tomorrow, but you guys get it first on the Polite Society podcast.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up so that my cast can join in as well. When this has been brewing for a while, and when it came to fruition, I have just been over the top excited. I've already got several of the Daily Bullet videos that I've been recording with people like Bama Carey, Illinois State Rifle Association, Goal out of Massachusetts. I've been doing a lot of those. They're already in the can, set to release. As a matter of fact, 2 minutes ago, I set the Bama Carey one to release. So I'm really excited to come aboard and help with exposure all the way around.
Yeah, and I left something out of that too. You're going to be a contributing editor to thegunmag.com, one of the Foundation's official websites.
Yes, sir. That's the one I'm most nervous about. Everything else is talking and talking with people, and I'm good at that. Writing?
Paul, I think you have an envious position because a lot of us want to interview our boss, but never get the chance.
So let's talk just a little bit, if we could, then, Alan. Statement did come out today. You filed suit along with some other groups in New Jersey, basically for not allowing citizens to carry a loaded firearm outside the home. Now, this past week we had the addition of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. Did that affect the timing of the filing of this lawsuit? Or because, I mean, these things take forever anyway, was that going to happen whether or not she got confirmed?
No, we were pretty in a stalled position on the right to carry in our country because the Supreme Court chose not to hear a couple different right to carry cases in the last session. But now that we have a different makeup on the Supreme Court and ACB has joined it, we now feel that we have a pro-gun rights majority on the court. And so we're filling the tree up with a bunch of litigation. And we had planned it. We started the planning stages of this before she was even confirmed, on the assumption that she would be confirmed. And we've the first shootful was the suit we just filed today in New Jersey. There'll be many more coming all across the country in various different states and circuits. Basically what we're looking at is, the appeals court that handles New Jersey's federal cases have already ruled, against the right to carry. They said we don't have such a right. And this gives us a chance now to quickly go to the trial court level, back to the appeals court level, and right up to the Supreme Court. So we're planning on forcing a bunch of cases to the Supreme Court to win back our firearms freedom one lawsuit at a time.
So let me ask this: a win is obviously helps us all the way around. Does a loss hurt us as much as a win helps us, or because things don't really change, is it just a try it and if it fails, it fails?
Well, losses never help us, and we don't file cases to lose. we understand because of precedent in the circuit that New Jersey is in, at the lower court levels, we're not going to win. But our hope is to get the Supreme Court to finally rule on a right to carry case. And I think this is the one that might very well make it. And I'm really kind of excited about it.
All right. Rob, you've got one question in here in show notes. I want you to fire that one off, man.
Yeah, Mr. Gottlieb, I'm thinking back to the cases that you in D.C. In many of those cases, you had great cases. They'd be presented to a judge who would ignore them. They sat for years. You would file, and yes, it's under consideration. Nothing would happen. What kind of timelines are realistic in this case in New Jersey?
Well, first of all, let me say that in D.C., in that circuit, we've won a lot of key important cases. You got to realize coming up through there was the Heller case, the McDonald case, the Palmer case, another one on issuing permits to carry in D.C. So we've done pretty well in D.C., but some of them have taken many, many years. This case is going to move quickly because we already had the precedent of the appeals court ruling against the right to carry in New Jersey. Means the lower court judge is going to quickly rule, and we pulled a pretty decent judge, but precedent is going to probably force him to say, hey, I think you're right, but I'm going to have to rule against you, which moves it real quickly to the appeals court, and the appeals court's going to say, hey, we've already ruled on this issue, and so here's our ruling all over again, get it and allow us to appeal to the Supreme Court rather quickly. I think this case is going to move much, much faster than some of the other ones in some of these circuits.
Thank you.
All right. I want to switch gears, and we're going to start talking politics. But before we do, I think it's important that we make a little bit of a distinction here. There are two related groups: the Second Amendment Foundation and the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. They have different roles. Could you explain a little bit about what CCR-KBA is and how it differs from the SAF?
Sure. Well, the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms is actually 2 years older than the foundation. And a lot of people think that I founded it, but I really didn't. I went to work for it as its executive director and then basically became its chairman of the board. And the foundation I founded 2 years later in 1974. The difference is really as the Citizens Committee was set up as a grassroots and direct lobbying organization. The foundation was set up because the gun rights movement did not have what's known as a 501c3 tax-exempt, tax-deductible foundation to work in educational, publishing, and legal defense issues. So we pretty much do research, publishing, public education, legal defense, in support of the Second Amendment, and the Citizens Committee does the direct and grassroots lobbying. It also is a nonprofit organization, but donations to it are not tax deductible where they are to the Second Amendment Foundation. And that's because the Citizens Committee engages in direct and grassroots lobbying.
Okay. So the big elephant in the room, the presidential election is tomorrow. Obviously, two starkly different candidates for the two major parties. How do things look from your standpoint right now?
Scary. I mean, there's no doubt that in the last week or two, Trump has been closing in on Biden. The question is, will he be able to close in enough to be able to win? I'd say 2 weeks ago, I'd rate him, 25% chance of winning. I think I'll take that up today to a 40% chance of winning. A lot of pieces of the puzzle have to fall in place rather quickly. There's a lot of progress that's been made. I've reviewed a lot of key polling data that was done yesterday. I reviewed it this morning. And in a lot of critical states, Trump has now actually taken the lead. And it looks pretty good. But, that's flying in the face of a lot of other polls that have been out for a few weeks showing the average of those polls that Biden is the winner, which is a disaster for the Second Amendment. However, I'm feeling better each day here, but we're running out of days. It's going to depend an awful lot on the election day turnout, and gun owners hold the key to this. We have nobody to blame but ourselves if Trump doesn't win. It looks pretty good right now in Florida. I think Florida is going to be a decisive win for Trump. A couple surprise states might be places like Nevada and New Hampshire. North Carolina is really tight right now. I think he's pulling into the lead, maybe, but it depends on who turns out on election day. Pennsylvania is really, really tight, and again, it's going to be very close there. I think in Michigan, Trump may have taken the lead now. Minnesota is still too close to really tell. Conventional wisdom is he doesn't take Minnesota. Arizona is really a battleground. I was in Arizona with Gun Owners for Trump last week, attended the Trump rally in Goodyear, Arizona, which was just amazing. And a lot of key gun owners from across the state turned out for it. I think Arizona is one of those states that he needs to win and was behind in, but looking like the momentum is definitely on his side. My big concern is people like George Soros and Michael Bloomberg, who put in hundreds of millions of dollars to defeat pro-gun candidates, not just Trump, but key critical members of the United States Senate, that if they don't get reelected and Biden becomes president, they will control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and anti-gun legislation could fly through very, very quickly. You all remember what happened in Virginia last election cycle, when Virginia flipped from being pro-gun to being very anti-gun. I'm concerned about that happening nationally. I'm also a little concerned about that happening in a state like Georgia, which has been a very red state, a very pro-gun rights state. I'm concerned that we may lose Georgia. And I'm very concerned about some state legislatures, because the legislatures that get elected in this cycle determine what happens in redistricting. And that's not just a 4-year cycle, that's a 10-year cycle. And so we could be behind the 8 ball in a number of states for the next 10 years. That's why it's extremely imperative that gun owners turn out tomorrow. They haven't cast their ballots so far. Vote, because it's really up to us to protect our rights. And I'm very concerned about a number of different states.
I'm going to go ahead. Anybody from the staff have anything they want to bring up?
What can we say but vote today? We'll all be a lot smarter Wednesday, although it may take to the following Wednesday to see what we can count on.
Yeah. I do have one more thing actually 2 more things I want to bring up. I was helping out the SAF with the Gun Rights Policy Conference this year. I was helping with the virtual cocktail reception. And I remember a story you told when we were doing that cocktail reception, where you said that in 2016, you had plans for Trump to lose. You had plans in place and ready to go if Hillary took the presidency. Thank goodness that didn't happen. Are there plans in case Trump doesn't win tomorrow?
Yeah, there are plans. The bigger thing, what we talked about at that cocktail reception, was the fact that we had a fundraising package ready to go that had a drop on a timeline right after the election. And conventional wisdom, of course, was that Hillary was going to win. And so the package was the alert, that Hillary's in the White House and we have big problems. I wasn't concerned about losing the Senate, but we worried about the White House. So we had written a fundraising package that was actually printed. It wasn't mailed yet, but it was printed, ready to go, so we could be out there immediately. And what happened, of course, is Hillary lost, which is a good thing, but it meant that we had to kill a fundraiser that had to go out. And, of course, we have to raise funds to keep our operations going. And so in the middle of the night, on election night, my wife, Juliana, and I rewrote the whole fundraising package, because we do our own fundraising. Sure. And we had it ready to go out the next day, but it was an all-nighter to make it all happen. But as far as plans go, what we do, first of all, the new president, no matter who it is, doesn't get inaugurated until January 20th. So we have plenty of time to put it together, our legislative action plans and what we're going to have to do in those kind of areas, as well as lawsuits, setting up lawsuits to challenge new laws that might get passed. So those aren't going to happen immediately after Election Day. So it buys us a little bit of time. My hope, of course, is that Trump gets reelected, the Republicans keep control of the Senate, which I'm very concerned about. Actually, more concerned about that right now than the White House, because the polling data there is a little slower to catch up. And what I'm hoping is that we can try and go on the offensive. If, in fact, Biden wins and the Democrats control the House and the Senate, we're in for an unbelievable, couple of years, to say the least. It's not going to be fun. We're going to be very much on the defensive. Our rights are going to be very much under attack. And of course, the foundation's legal programs and legal action have become much, much more important because if the Senate and the House pass anti-gun laws that Biden puts in place and signs, we're going to have a lot more on our plate to have to challenge. So we're trying to gear up for that right now. We have a slew of attorneys that have already, researched a lot of the things that Biden wants to try and pass, so that we can be prepared for that. But again, it doesn't happen until January 20th, and then they're going to have to pass it by both houses and sign it. And litigation probably really won't start until June at the earliest. But we're prepared for it because we're here to defend gun rights no matter what. And of course, we'd much rather be on the attack and get rid of old laws off the books rather than having attack new laws that go on the books that are threatening our rights. So let's just hope tomorrow works out right and we win, because I'd rather not have as much work to do, quite frankly, and I'd rather have not our rights under as much attack.
All right. Well, if I could, we're coming up on the end of the segment. Do you have time to hang with us for one more segment, or do you need to go?
It'd be my pleasure, no problem.
All right. Folks, we are going to step aside to break. We're going to hear from the SAF, and we'll be back with more with Alan Gottlieb right after this.
America is under attack, and we need you to take action now. Our history, culture, constitution, and the American way of life are being assaulted. Violent anarchists are rioting and looting in cities across the country. They are demanding the defunding of our police and an end to law and order. There has never been a more critical time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment Foundation created the Second Amendment First Responders Program. This program seeks to actively engage Americans who want to protect our Second Amendment rights. Please text PROTECT 2A to 474747 and become a Second Amendment first responder. Now is the time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. Text PROTECT 2A to 474747. Again, text PROTECT 2A to 474747. Now is the time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. Text PROTECT 2A to 474747.
Okay, we are back. This is the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. We are still with Alan Gottlieb of the Second Amendment Foundation. And I want to get to a few comments that have come in off social media, Alan. And I, unfortunately, Facebook, I can, for some reason, my software will not let you put you on the broadcast screen. But we have got a lot of great comments that are coming in. Kevin Sona asks, please explain to gun owners how close we really are to losing the Supreme Court back to the left if the left wins this year.
That's a really great question, and I just want to say, Kevin, I got your email, and so you should know that I have it now. But it finally came through. Yeah, obviously, Biden, Harris, and Chuck Schumer in the Senate, they really would like to expand the Supreme Court and pack it and add more judges to it that are anti-gun rights to try and upset our agenda, and that's something that's going to be very, very, tough for us to have to pill to swallow because we have so much we're putting into the Supreme Court pipeline right now. But my hope is that somehow they'll reconsider and realize that that's crazy, because if we elect a pro-gun president, we'll just expand the court all over again, and it's going to become the court's going to become so politicized and so untrusted by the American people that it's going to destroy the institution. And again, a lot of people a lot of our opponents don't care about shredding the institutions in our country, and quite frankly, trying to destroy everything America's built on. And that would be one of the straws that could break the camel's back by packing the Supreme Court. So I'm very, very concerned about that. I'm also concerned about bringing in D.C. as a state and Puerto Rico as a state. Less concerned about Puerto Rico, but we're very concerned about D.C. But the idea is the Democrats would like to pack the Senate with 4 more anti-gun senators so they can get more anti-gun legislation passed and through. And so we're going to have our hands full on all fronts. That's a great question, Kevin.
All right, and this one I can put up on screen. M. Gabriel on YouTube says, Alan, is the Daily Bullet going to be on YouTube? I guess I can go ahead and answer that, and the answer is yes.
Yeah, you take charge of that, Paul, because it's going to be something that you're going to run and you're going to really control. So the Daily Bullet will be on YouTube. Will it also be on Facebook?
I can put it there. It's a little more effort, but I can do that. Well, by little,
yeah, we'll try to get that out.
You got to push 3 buttons. So yeah,
okay.
It'll be.
And Paul, on the Daily Bullet, explain what kind of content it's going to have.
Well, the Daily Bullet is going to be me talking with gun rights leaders throughout the country. Again, I've already done Bama Carry, I've done Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, I've done Illinois State Rifle Association, Hawaii Rifle Association, a lot of state groups and some individuals that are making a difference. One per day, 15 minutes, and it's them talking about how their group started, why they got involved in activism, what they're doing to make a difference, and some of the challenges they've had, what they're doing to overcome them. What I'm hoping to do is one of my favorite parts of Gun Rights Policy Conference is the networking. And I get to sit down with people and find out what's working for them in their state, and maybe share a little bit about what's going on great in South Dakota. And that spreads the success around the nation. That's what I want the Daily Bullet to be. The Weekly Bullet podcast is just going to be the audio version of that for all week, rolled up into one, and then we're going to release it on podcast. For those that, like I used to be a truck driver, I can catch a podcast because I drove 11 hours a day, but I couldn't necessarily watch every day, so the podcast is for those that can catch it on podcast and don't have time on YouTube or Facebook.
My hope is that this becomes a tool to help grow the grassroots gun rights movement in our country and give recognition to the people who are out there on a volunteer basis, daily out there fighting for our rights across the country, and help really recognize them, give them a chance to grow, allow their groups to grow, and allow more people to sort of network, finding out what's going on and working in one state and then bringing those things to their state. And I think, quite honestly, it's going to serve a very important purpose to help make the gun rights movement much bigger and less controlled by any particular organization or individual.
All right. Amy, looks like you've got a question to ask.
Well, it's not more so a comment. I was just, talking about the Daily Bullet. To me, it sounds like a great idea to understand, other states' rights and also know what organizations are in other states to keep up with all the changes and all the laws that are being proposed. And Alan, you highlighted why that's such an important thing to know, what each state is up to, because especially in an election year where our gun rights are being, they're at threat of losing some of our gun rights. It's important to know what state stance is on certain things and how it looks like their political, politics are going. And I think it just sounds like a great idea for our listeners to get involved, and not only with just what's going on in your state, but in other states as well. We're seeing the result of what can happen when another state, not necessarily, even our neighboring state, why it's so important to know what's going on and to get involved, even if it's not your own state. So I was just commenting about that.
Yeah, Amy, another reason why it's really important is I expect to see next year, in the off-year election, Bloomberg and Soros and Steve Ballmer, former Microsoft millionaire who owns the San Diego Chargers, to see put hundreds of millions of dollars into gun ballot measures across the states attacking our rights from state to state. And so this is a way that our activists can get together and pool resources and help them even across state lines to help fight some of this stuff. I expect us to really see an unbelievable assault on gun rights coming up. Either the other side is going to be emboldened by the elections, and that's going to push their agenda to do it, or they're going to lose in this election cycle and then try and take their case to the people and go over the head of politicians. So one way or the other, I expect them to try and buy away our gun rights in 2021.
I want to add one more question here, and I've been wanting to ask you this for a while. How do you decide what cases to file? I know because the last few weeks I've had access to your social media, and I know you get messages from all over the country. File a lawsuit for me on this, file a lawsuit for me on that. You've got requests coming in all the time. How do you prioritize what needs to happen in what order?
It's actually rather difficult. We do have an advisory board of attorneys that help out on this. So it isn't just one person necessarily making the decision. But one, we like to take cases that we think we can win. If a case is unwinnable, even though we sympathize greatly with the potential plaintiffs, if we're not going to win it, and it isn't going to get us anywhere, we don't want to waste our time and resources on it. Even though we really sympathize with the potential plaintiffs, what we try to do initially is what the highest priority is that cases that will make case law, that will impact and overturn laws, the law we're challenging plus other laws, and basically put in place case law that we can use in the future for other gun cases, or other individuals or gun rights groups can also use when they file their suits. Right now, a little over 80% of the case law that's been won in the courts has been won by the foundation and our attorneys that have basically built the foundation for gun rights in our court system. And we try to build upon that so that other future generations can use those court cases to their advantage in the future. So that's one of the things that's really important. The other thing, of course, is that a lot of those cases we're looking at not just taking out anti-gun laws per se, but also setting precedents at the U.S. Supreme Court. So it's trying to strategically place cases that have a chance to be heard and win at the Supreme Court level. And then we'd like to just really just get rid of injustices against gun owners in general. But again, we take a look at what can we win. The underlying thing that's always hanging over our head is, can we afford the cases? Right now, we have over 30 cases we're dealing with all across the country, and they get rather expensive. If we don't have the funding, we can't take a case that we know is going to cost $500,000, $1 million eventually on our plate if we don't know we can fund it. So a lot depends on support we get from gun owners across the country in support of our litigation programs and legal actions. And so those are the kind of things that we really try and consider. Unfortunately, we have to turn down cases that we can't afford to take. And unfortunately, we have to turn down cases that we don't think we can win, even when we think the plaintiffs, are justified and really need, legal representation. If it isn't going to be a winning measure, it's a little tough to do it. We also try to take plaintiffs that are looked upon favorably by the court system and are very sympathetic. So, we've taken a lot of cases, like in Chicago, good example, in the McDonald case, Otis McDonald, an African-American, who's fighting drug dealers and traffickers on his home street, as his house, ransacked, so to speak, because he's out there defending his fellow neighbors, but they won't let him own a gun in Chicago. Or Michael Moore in Illinois, who was a prison guard, when he'd go home, couldn't carry a gun to and from work to protect himself, or the right to carry in Illinois. And he has people that he had locked up in jail cells that were out telling him, threatening him and his family, but he had no way to protect them if they weren't in their own home in Illinois. So we try to look at sympathetic, clients. In D.C., one of our right to carry cases there that we won was, a gay rights activist who was attacked for being gay in Washington, D.C. And you got liberal judges there, and we're trying to find somebody who's a sympathetic plaintiff. And so we a lot of times there are laws that we want to challenge, but we also don't have the plaintiffs to even challenge those cases. Right now, some of the ones we're trying to put in motion to get to the Supreme Court in various areas of the country, we're still looking for plaintiffs for those cases who are willing to stand up and put their name on the dotted line in their own communities and be a plaintiff. So it's not just people coming to us. Sometimes strategically, we want to follow those cases in certain areas and certain jurisdictions and circuit courts. But if we don't have the plaintiff, we can't follow them right away. So there's lots of things on our plate. We have to look at that as well. It's not just people coming to us to be the plaintiff. We have to go out and find plaintiffs many, many times.
Oh, very cool. We're coming up on the end of the segment again, and I promised I wouldn't keep you for more than 2 segments. So, Alan, thank you so much, A, for the opportunity, and B, for coming on the air to talk to us tonight.
Well, Paul, thank you, and welcome to our Second Amendment Foundation family as Deputy Director of New Media, and all of you that work with Paul. Thank you very much for all your efforts, because you make this whole thing possible. I thank all of you.
All right. Alan Gottlieb, everybody, of the Second Amendment Foundation. We are going to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got a lot of news. We'll get to that right after this. This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off. Okay, we are back. I'm getting heavy background noise from somewhere, and I don't know where. Let me see here. You know what? I think I may know where. Just 1 second. No, I guess I don't. Anyway, we'll just go on. The news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Number one, I guess, for gun people and for a lot of people watching this show, because a lot of people who watch this show go, is SHOT Show 21. Wah, 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 wah. Kind of went away. Anybody want to chime in on that one?
Paul, what's amazing to me about that, when you get out of Las Vegas and Reno, the rest of Nevada is wildly conservative. It parallels California. And here we have Nevada politics taking money out of the hands of the people who work in Las Vegas. You know, that is one of the larger trade shows to come to the city, and yet we're going to have, in the next couple days, unionized hotel workers being told to go and vote Democratic because that will save their jobs. Wow, I think the timing of this was really poor. I would have waited till after the election. Anyone else have a comment? Hearing neither a confirmation nor a rebuttal.
Right. I agree with you, Rob. I agree. Timing is a little suspicious.
Yeah. Wow. Now, there may have been some closing dates where NSSF said, hi, you've got it. You can't do this to us at the last minute. We need a confirmation from you now. And other schedules drove the decision.
It's possible. Anything's possible, though, Rob.
Hey, I'm trying to make sense of what we see here.
And I can see Robin's lips moving. I'm sorry, Robin. Amy, you were starting to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I don't think everyone in the industry, I think, was kind of waiting to hear if SHOT Show was going to be canceled. I don't think anyone was surprised, but I know, I was hoping it would still happen, but it's really hard to say, Rob, whether you're right or not, if about the timing issue. And it's 2020 has been such a crazy, weird year.
Crazy year. Yeah. Right. The politicians may try and spin this by going, all you people who work and or used to work and now get unemployment from having worked in the hospitality industry, see, we just saved you. That's a tough sell. We'll see how it works.
All right. I've got a couple things going on in the background here. Somebody pick a story and run with it.
Law enforcement agencies all across the country are gearing up for protests because tomorrow's election day and this is 2020. Thousands are expected to take to the streets for election demonstration. One representative, Sergeant Betsy Brainer Smith with the National Police Association, said, if there's not a clear winner, we're going to see violence. We're prepared for that. Well, even if we get a clear winner and it happens quickly, there are going to be protests. And in some cases, cases, riots. She estimates that 80% of the country will see unrest. I think that's wildly exaggerated. One pair of protests are planned for Washington. We also see New York police officer Dermot Shea warned that officers will be required to report in uniform, including plainclothes officers. They're gearing up. In Beverly Hills, they're closing Rodeo Drive to both vehicle and pedestrian traffic. That's for Tuesday, Election Day, and for Wednesday. The list goes on and on. If you check social media, you'll see a number of pictures with boarded up stores. It's not a hurricane, it's an election. That should shock you. If you live in any heavy populated area, be prepared. We'd like you to remember this from the Polite Society podcast. Pants on, gun on, and don't go stupid places at stupid time with stupid people. Stay alert, stay alive. We want you to be here to listen to us next week. We treasure our friends everywhere.
Parts of Austin are being boarded up downtown.
No, you think you'd see that in Plano?
Oh, hell no.
Thank you. So when they say 80% of the country, I'm going, what?
Yeah, based on, that's ludicrous. 80% of the country is just, that's stupid to even say that.
Thank you.
Maybe 5% of the country, maybe 10.
Well,
in
you
big,
and I can
huge
anticipate
metropolitan
where.
cities. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Blue metropolitan cities.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, which was it in Pennsylvania where they staged a riot and the law enforcement and the prosecutor said, not this time. I'm trying to, there are places you can get away with it. Philadelphia, yeah. But other places, not so much. Y'all be careful out there.
And I just think this is interesting. Beverly Hills, they're closing Rodeo Drive to both vehicular and pedestrian traffic tomorrow and Wednesday. Like that's going to stop somebody from looting and pillaging, right?
Well, I think what's happening, did you see the Trump parade that went down there? I think that may be why they're shutting it down.
No, I didn't. I can tell you I saw a Trump parade when I was coming home from, I don't know, something at KR training. I don't know. For some reason, I would have been east on Highway 290 going through a little town called Elgin. And this has been a couple of weeks ago. And all of a sudden, I'm, just Trump flags and American flags and honking and waving. And I didn't expect that in a little bitty town on the highway, but it was nice to see. Yeah. So, I think we're going to see some rioting regardless of who wins or, what happens. But I think it's going to be, like Paul said, contained to blue cities, metropolitan cities. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope it doesn't happen at all. But
Kevin on Facebook, Kevin Sona says, just put up a no looting sign up. That should work.
Of course. No guns, no looting. What could possibly go wrong? Bad guys always follow rules.
I did see one of our listeners say 80% is ridiculous. It'll be the usual suspects in the usual places.
Of course.
We agree.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we jump on to my neck of the woods, Louisiana? Y'all come down now. One story that we missed was heartwarming, I think. Jefferson Parish, Louisiana school districts had suspended Kamari Harrison, 9 years old. He's being educated virtually. He was at home and was suspended after a BB gun was spotted during an online class. His brother tripped over the gun. Kamari picked it up, moved it away, and the teacher lost her mind. 2 other students have similarly been suspended for having knives and a katana, not threatening other students, just they appeared on screen. All 3 were in their homes. The ACLU and the NRA are both speaking out in defense of these students, particularly Kamari Harrison. School officials are expanding their school campuses to a residence where one of the students lives. There is now legislation in Louisiana to make these school districts write down what they will do and define where their rules end. There are judges willing to just slap them silly if they say that a home is part of the school.
It blows my mind. It's insanity. The lengths that people will go to. I don't have words, actually. I don't know what to say. Thank you, ACLU, ironically enough. But your house is a private residence. That's, somebody help me out. Amy, what do you have to say?
I mean, I just think that's complete overreach to say, now they're trying to regulate what appears on a screen in someone's private residence. I mean, the person simply, in this case, it's a 9-year-old who's attending an online class, which, is kind of the norm right now with what's going on. And I don't get why people are offended about what might be in the background, it's not like it's a BB gun. I think we're all just kind of speechless. Like, where do we go from there?
Amy, you obviously see what's in the background of your shot.
Yeah.
And I'm going, if somebody said you can't, my kid would be stacked in front of the gun safe, all the stickers, all the posters, everything would be there, and go, now you tell a judge how telling him he can't sit there is not violating my rights of free speech. Because I want to watch this. This is going to be fun.
Exactly.
Couple of comments off Facebook, and George Geller, man, I would love to just show this instead of say it, but I can't, so here we go. When do they start suspending boys for having testicles?
Yep.
Kevin Sona says, my daughter Kayla is homeschooled and she wears a gun on her hip every day. So, very cool.
Now, can you imagine? Okay. Here's a precedent that I would fear if I were a president of a teachers union. A judge says, I see the point of the school. Yeah, that's really a problem. So we're going to solve this by demanding that the school fund homeschoolers. That way, the school doesn't have to deal with this thorny problem of making it safe for everyone given the restrictions, because free speech has its place too. Yeah, that'll change a lot of minds across the country.
Okay, real quick, Robin, I'm gonna have you check to see, does your headset have a mute switch on the headset or on the line? And no, I'm still not.
Your lips move, but we can't hear what you're saying.
There's a song in there somewhere.
I know.
I think it's been written, partner.
All right, we got 2 minutes to break. We got time for one more story. I really kind of want to cover this one here. In a city where violent crime has soared during the epidemic, Cleveland Councilman Bashir Jones wants to take a page out of Rick Ector's playbook. He wants to train 1,000 women to handle firearms so they can protect themselves. In urban neighborhoods where there is a stigma attached to handgun training, Jones said. He thinks proper firearms training and safe handling could reduce crime as a protection against domestic violence. He expects to hit his goal of signing up 1,000 women. Sponsors are paying for 100, and 700 others are signed up for classes offered at a reduced rate. I think that's very cool. I don't think he's going to get it done in one day like Rick does, but I still think it's very cool.
I wish him the very best of luck. I think that's awesome.
And Rick Hector got it done for free because he hustled. Thank you, Rick Hector. God bless.
And there's a lot of instructors that help. I know Rick has he's got a lot of people that volunteer to help with that. So I think it can be done, but it just requires a lot of people to good networking on the whoever's trying to take that on. Definitely.
All right. We are going to step aside to break again. When we come back, we've got our defensive gun use segment, and we'll get to that right after this from Concealment Solutions.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by Concealment Solutions. Jason Christensen makes the most comfortable inside the waistband holster on the market, bar none. The Black Mamba. Some of the other products offered are the Sidewinder outside the waistband holster and Python gun belts. Every product that Concealment Solutions makes has unsurpassed craftsmanship that shows in the fit and finish of the product. Visit concealmentsolutions.com to view all of the products available, and you can get 10% off your order when you enter the promo code POLITICS in the promo code box at checkout. That's concealmentsolutions.com.
Hey, and welcome back to the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The Defensive Gun Use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. And before Rob jumps on me, I think I had a brain fart and said what I've been saying for about 6 years. This is the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I think I said it wrong. And maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But, yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and go to our first one. Rob, could I ask you to talk about this one?
Anne Arundel, Maryland. Last November, Gregory Corwick defended his life with a shotgun. This week, he was acquitted on murder, manslaughter, and felony firearms charges. The court agreed that he acted in self-defense when he fatally shot an acquaintance. As with any self-defense case, Corwick wasn't denying that he shot the victim. The jury of 12 decided that Corwick was justified in his use of deadly force and that force was reasonable. Here's the rest of the story. Police found Jeffrey Dickinson in Corwick's driveway at about 9:30 in the morning. Paramedics, faced with a gaping gunshot wound, pronounced him dead at the scene, and the medical examiner ruled it to be a homicide. Importantly, toxicology found that the victim was under the influence of alcohol and in addition had traces of fentanyl and cocaine in his urine. A contractor by trade, Corwick had hired Dickinson, a carpenter, to help around the house in preparation for a party. That work was complete. He'd run out of work, so he recommended Dickinson to a friend. The friend, Justin Forenza, who ran a pier construction business. Forenza fired Dickinson days before the incident after he caught Dickinson drinking on the job repeatedly. Text messages between Dickinson and Forenza showed an ongoing dispute over claims of money owed for labor. After 5 days of this, Dickinson turned his attention to his original employer, Corwick. Corwick called 911 twice on the day of the shooting. Before the shooting, Corwick was calm, collected, told the 911 operator that Dickinson had threatened to burn his house down. After the shooting, Corwick was hysterical. He told them he had shot an attacker. All this while police were on their way to the scene. Dickinson had been warned that he was not welcome and that the threats had escalated from burning his house to threats of murder and violence to his mother-in-law. Corwick told an operator that he was armed. He told Dickinson that he'd alerted authorities and that they could talk once Dickinson had calmed down. When he heard Dickinson's scooter approach the building, he walked halfway down the driveway and told him to go away. As Dickinson raced up the driveway, Corwick retreated to the garage. Dickinson ditched the scooter and charged Corwick, who repeatedly told him to stop. Corwick had been told that Dickinson was coming unarmed, but fired his shotgun when he was being charged. Deadly force is supposed to be a last result, not a first impulse. That's what Assistant State's Attorney Jason Steinhardt told the jury. Well, here's what else was said. You don't have to let somebody beat you up before you shoot them. That was defense attorney Peter O'Neill. Corwick won't be getting off scot-free, having pled guilty to illegally possessing the shotgun, and he also faces charges for illegal possession of firearms due to a prior conviction. His attorney maintains that he bought all the firearms illegally and was unaware of new regulations enacted by the legislature, which made owning them illegal. Tracy, talk to me.
Ignorance of the law is no defense to prosecution.
It might be defense to conviction, though.
With regard to the firearms being purchased legally or illegally and unaware of new regulations enacted and that sort of stuff, you know, I'm not so sure that I agree or I disagree. Amy, what do you have to say?
Well, you know, and I don't know what regulations are in that specific jurisdiction, but this is a question I always pose to students taking a concealed carry class or just a handgun class where we discuss use of force laws. You know, at what point do you define that you think you are faced with threat of loss of life or serious bodily harm? Because the answer can be, I mean, different depending on who you are. And, you know, just honestly, you know, for myself, if someone, and I don't know whether they have, whether I know they're armed, if they have a knife, or if I know that they might not, you know, not sure what they might or might not have. If someone's approaching me who's, let's say, you know, I'm a woman, I'm 4'11", I'm of small stature. If there's a man who's approaching me who's twice my size, if he's even within 2 arms distance and I've already told him to stop coming toward me and he's still approaching, and in this case, you know, what I would see as he's charging me, I'm already threatened. So of course I'm going to do what I'm going to need to do to defend myself and ensure that he doesn't get within reach of me, because at that point I'm not so confident in myself that, oh, here's the training I have, I can take on someone who's twice my size. Does it make what I'm saying right or wrong? It just depends on, you know, how I can convey what I felt in that moment to a judge or jury. But in a case where if I'm at home, you know, meeting someone outside, regardless of what the Castle Law Doctrine says in my state, I'm not going to meet someone outside in my driveway. I'm going to barricade myself in my house, lock the doors,
Absolutely.
And if they come in, now it's forced entry.
There you go.
Rob, what do you have to add?
I just noticed that it's very hard to hide what you do. If you take drugs on a regular basis and say, yeah, but I don't carry a gun when I'm intoxicated, the drugs in your body will be used as evidence in a court of law. Here we have a man who had a repeated alcohol problem, a fentanyl problem, a cocaine problem. I suspect that influenced the jury's decision. Here he was making violent threats. The thought was he is frequently in a state of reduced mental capacity. He might have carried through those threats. What he might have done when sober and what a sober person might do isn't necessarily relevant in this case.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. I'll take this one. This is out of Johnson City, Georgia. At 10:15 p.m., police were dispatched to the Scotchman gas station. A 36-year-old man entered the store and demanded money from the clerk. The clerk complied with the demand while being threatened with a firearm. Now, the clerk's husband happened to be in the store at the time. He has a valid handgun carry permit, and he was armed at the time. He intervened, and he shot the robber 2 times in self-defense when the robber pointed his gun at the husband. Witnesses gave police descriptions of the robber. Those descriptions matched the suspect in an earlier armed robbery at Tri-City Wholesale Tobacco. In that attempt, though, the robber left without any money. He did fire a pistol inside the store, but no one was injured. A police canine located the man nearby with 2 gunshot wounds. He refused commands to surrender, so the canine was sent in to apprehend him. He was taken into custody and transported to a medical facility where he is in serious but stable condition. He's being held for robbery, assault, kidnapping charges, and he has a $151,000 bond awaiting a Sessions Court appearance. I'm telling you, man, rather than having a dog attack me, I think I'd rather be shot. Anybody want to jump in on this one?
It would have been nice if
Yeah, go. I can hear you.
Wouldn't it have been nice if the clerk, the wife, would have been armed herself and didn't have to depend on a man to defend her?
Well, yeah, but I want to say
Tracy,
this,
I want you.
Go, Rob.
Oh, I want to amplify Tracy's point that 2 armed defenders are many times more effective than a single defender. So, do you love your hub? Come on, carry on.
There are a lot of convenience stores where if you're armed, you're fired. Whether or not you're in the right or wrong, yes, you'll live to tell about it, but you've lost your job.
But you're alive.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, there's absolutely that. However, maybe husband was just there because, look, wife is dangerous area. I'm gonna go down and just make sure she's okay.
Maybe.
That's my thoughts. I mean, all right. Well, we are. You know what? We're coming up right at the end of the segment here. How fortuitous! I want to check to see if anything's been posted on. Yeah, we'll get into that. There's been a lot of comments on Facebook. I haven't been able to look at them. On YouTube, I just want to add this one. Ignorance of the law can't be helped. Too many obscure obscure laws to keep track of. Most LEOs don't even know all the laws. And George Geller moved to YouTube from Facebook, I'm sure, so I could put his comments up on the air. $151,000 bond isn't enough for a series of armed robberies. I would absolutely agree with that. $151,000 cash only, which we can do, which is done in South Dakota sometimes, that would do the trick. All right, let's go ahead and step off to break. We've got one more segment to come. We'll close up the show. Unfortunately, all we get to do is look at Robin. I haven't been able to get her microphone to work. But we've got one more segment to come. We'll get to that right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. JPFO.org.
All right, welcome back. This is our final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I know I got it right that time. At this point, normally we ask for people to come join us and watch live, and I'm going to do that this time too. You can catch us on the Polite Society podcast Facebook page. I cross-posted this one to the Second Amendment Foundation's Facebook page. If you want to comment and see your comment on the air, though, you got to be on Polite Society Podcast. YouTube, Polite Society Podcast. Again, I'll cross-post it to the Second Amendment Foundation's YouTube page when I'm done. If you want to email the show, the email address is onair@politicsandguns.com. And I want to, before I throw to Rob here, I want to mention one thing. There is just a ton of congratulations on both Facebook and YouTube on the new position. And if I got them all in, we'd be here another half an hour. I would just want to say thank you to everybody. It is so nice to be able to talk about this. And it is... next week, when we get into personal news, I'll talk more about how this happened, that it came up, that, and maybe we'll do it. We're going to, I think, have a little bit of time at the end of this segment. Maybe I'll get into it then. Why don't I just go ahead and slide over and throw it to Rob and say, Rob, man, what's been going on over at Slowfax?
I wrote an article called Black Robes Matter in the 2020 election. It's been recent history. Associate Justice Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed, and that happened right as people are getting ready to vote. Democrats called Judge Barrett professionally unqualified. They called her an extremist. They called her corrupt. The personal attacks on Judge Barrett's character and on her family were cutting. Let me translate those criticisms for you. What they mean is that she's a progressive judge who will legislate for them from the bench. This election is about more than the personalities of Donald Trump or Joe Biden. A handful of billionaires want to control our media, our legal system, and they want us disarmed. Some of these elites are from China and some are from the U.S. Let's be clear. Seizing power and safer for them doesn't make the world safer for me. I doubt it makes the world safer for you either. That's why and how I chose my candidates. That's why I went to vote. I hope you will too. My articles are up at Clash Daily, at Amoland, and at my blog, slowfax.wordpress.com. I'd also like you to read the articles, particularly on the NRA convention, by my colleague, John Richardson. Look for him at Only Guns and Money. Paul, we have a Facebook listeners group that you should talk about.
We do. It's the Polite Society Podcast listeners on Facebook. Just go ahead and look up Polite Society Podcast listeners. When you log into Facebook, the group is right there. We're getting more people in there all the time. Because of the job change, I have been able to look in on there and participate more there than I have been able to in the past. And things are, we're getting a lot of good conversation going in there. Before we take off, since we've got a little bit of time, we got 12 minutes, but we're going to end early anyway. I want to tell everybody a story about the timeline of what happened, and this speaks to the kind of people that run the Second Amendment Foundation. I wasn't lying. We'd been talking since before Gun Rights Policy Conference about this move. Alan Gottlieb and some of the folks at SAF and myself. And we knew it was going to probably happen, but it was going to be probably after the election, maybe well after the election, maybe around the first of the year. But it wasn't certain that it was going to happen. But we've been working things back and forth, and then the day came when I failed my DOT physical. I'm fortunate enough to be able to send Alan direct emails. And I emailed him and said, look, dude, this is what happened. Could we maybe take these talks and put them on the front burner? It wasn't 10 minutes after I sent that email, he was on the phone talking to me, and it wasn't 15 minutes later, and the deal was set. We agreed to go ahead and start the relationship officially on November 1st, which is why I couldn't say anything. And we wanted also to announce it on tonight's show. And so the SAF are really, in my case, maybe not lifesavers, but certainly they absolutely helped in a critical time of need. I was going to be unemployed, and they made something that should take a while go very, very fast to make sure that that what needed to be taken care of was taken care of. So I think that's about it. I don't see anything else up in here. That does wrap up another episode of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I would like to thank our guest for 2 segments tonight, even though we only agreed to 1, Alan Gottlieb. So for Amy, Dana, Gary, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, and Rob.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right, we are clear of recording. Everybody on streams, I'm going to go ahead and bring cameras back up. Thank you for watching. I'm going to go ahead and shut streams down, and come join us next week. I think we have a guest already booked. I'm not entirely sure. We've had a lot of stuff going on this weekend, but get out and vote tomorrow, and if you haven't already, and we'll see you next week.
Rob